So, I don't know if anybody knows this, but there is actually a TV adaptation of one of Colleen Hoover's books, which is called Confess. I myself have to confess that this news made me want to die. Odds are you're not super familiar with this TV show because it was not mainstream by any means. It was released on a random flop streaming service called Go90. The series was released in 2017, and just a few months later in 2018, the streaming service it was released on completely went bankrupt and shut down. So it is incredibly hard to find access to this show. It's not on YouTube, it's not streaming anywhere. However, I have found this show and I have watched this show, and now I'm here to say my thoughts. I feel like everybody's gonna be like, wait, Caleb, did you pay like $20 to watch this show? And while I will not confirm or deny anything, for legal reasons, I will just say allegedly, I went onto an illegal website and I downloaded it. I have not read the book that this is based on, so I was going in completely blind. I was hoping that maybe the show would be good and that maybe I would not want to die by the end of it, and I do have the unfortunate news of saying that this show is freaking awful. I am going to go through the entire show and tell you everything that happens, all of the funny moments, and let's hope for the best. All right, let's do it. So in episode 1 of the Confess TV series, we start 10 years ago in the past. The show starts with Auburn in the hospital kissing what I thought was a dead person. But no, this is actually her boyfriend at the time who is dying in the hospital of unknown illness. While this man is literally on his freaking deathbed, he mentions the fact that he's so happy that when he met her that she was a virgin.
Thank you for letting me be here first.
I don't know why. She like cries into his mouth and then like she pieces out, like she's gotta go. So we cut to the present and our girl is walking down the street optimistically, like looking up and like smiling at the world around her. While she's walking, she notices this random dirty building and it has the word confess written on the door. And as she starts walking more, she sees that there are multiple confessions written on the outside of this building. I was really excited to see what these confessions were gonna be, and then when she starts to read them, they were like the most lame thing of all time. One of them was like, I never tip.
I never tip.
And there was another one that was like, I forgot my brother's birthday.
I forgot my brother's birthday.
And I was really disappointed because like, you know for a fact, if this happened in real life, like you would just like strut on by like in the middle of the day on like a Tuesday afternoon, and you would see in like big bold letters like, I was involved in a series of killings in 2006, and you'd be like, what? I do love the assumption that like the deepest, darkest secrets that the people in the Colleen Hoover universe have is that like they forgot their freaking brother's birthday. But I guess in a world where sexual assault isn't seen as bad, those things stick out. Something I want to say about this main character is that she is painfully cringy. I don't know if it's the writing or if it's the acting or if it's the actress or if it's everything, but she's terrible.
Oh, Wi-Fi password is OwenCat1000.
Cool. Sarah's really thirsty.
Really?
Fries are for sharing.
She sees that there is a help wanted sign on this building and she needs some money for undisclosed main character reasons, and so she goes over and knocks on the door. He does not tell her what she needs to do literally at freaking all, and he says immediately like, take off your clothes please.
Oh, right, get undressed.
And then he's like, you can trust me. And then he like whips out his like government issued ID. Like a normal person, she's like, okay, out loud, I'm gonna read his full legal name.
Your name is Owen Mason Gentry? Wait, your initials are OMG?
Yes,
Really?
that is why I don't tell people my middle name. Come on.
Wow, that's such a funny joke. Colleen Hoover, you really got us, girl. Okay, anyway, so we find out that instead of actually like assaulting this girl, like was being implied in the story so many times, he is an artist and he's hosting like an auction party for his art, and he needs like some random person to like walk around with like a tray full of drinks. During the auction, we find out that all of the paintings he draws are inspired by the confessions that people leave underneath his door.
I'm having an affair with my neighbor, who's married. They're all confessions.
So he's really going to town painting a mural because someone didn't leave a tip.
I never tip.
During the party, Auburn is like pacing around and she's like looking at all of these art pieces and like studying them and like thinking to herself how amazing they are. Like as the audience, when you see them, like, it's ugly. I know that this show had no budget, so like I'm not surprised that the art is ugly, but it's pretty traditional for a TV show to like hire an actual artist. I'm pretty sure that they just went onto Getty frickin' Images and they searched like watercolor picture of woman, and then they like printed it out like really big. This entire episode was incredibly boring, so I'll be honest, I was kind of going a little comatose while watching. Then all of a sudden, before my eyes, I had the biggest freaking jump scare of my life.
Excuse me. I'd like to buy number 4.
Ooh, good choice.
You can tell while watching this scene that Colleen Hoover really went method on this role as random woman. I actually think it's really inspirational that Colleen Hoover took a break from her 13 hours of daily writing to be on set. And so that was the first episode. It was so good. Okay, on to episode 2. So at the beginning of episode 2, that's when we learn a little bit more about Auburn's origin story. We learn that at the beginning of the show, during the 10 years ago, that Auburn was supposedly supposed to be 15 years old, despite how in the flashbacks and in the current day, she looks like she's 40. We find out that 10 years ago, her boyfriend died, and like the next day, she found out that she was pregnant with his phantom baby. She kept the baby and she gave birth to the baby. As she was dealing with the trauma and the pressure of motherhood, she got put into a psych ward. This is not fake. And so the baby was given custody to the dead baby daddy's mother. And so she has custody of the baby now. Then she was out of the ward and she wanted her son. But because the mother-in-law is evil, she's like, no. And so now Auburn is fighting to get custody of her son, and she's hiring like lawyers to like get him back or whatever the frick. I'd say that this actress is pretty good at being like smiley and happy, and she's good at delivering like the Hallmark type like dialogue. However, when this actress is supposed to be like sad or angry, it kind of just looks like she's taking a shit. Auburn decides that she's going to go on a date with this artist man for no reason. During the date, she gets a call and she's like, who's this from? It's the dead baby daddy's brother. And he's like immediately like freaking out for no reason. And he's like, where are you? Who are you with?
I can't really talk. I'm at a dinner.
With who? You on a date? Why are you hiding that? Just be careful. I don't trust the guy.
And then at the end of the episode, after Auburn leaves, the artist gets a confession under his door. It's like a threat. And it's like, I'm gonna expose the truth. I'm like, I wonder who it is. And that was the end of episode 2. All right, moving on. So episode 3 starts with Auburn in a nightclub, and she is about to go on another date with the artist man. The camera like pans up and she is smiling at nothing. While she's there, she waits for a while and she texts the artist man multiple times and he stands her up. She's really sad about this, but all of her friends hype her up and they're like, girl, you're fierce. Let's go back out to the club and let's have a good time and let's forget about him. So they walk by Owen Gentry's studio, which is apparently in the middle of town. They are like, oh my gosh, let's write like mean confessions about him because like he's a terrible person. Auburn decides to write the cruelest thing I have ever heard ever in my life on paper.
Owen Gentry, you're a jerk.
And then they like cheer for her.
Burn. Barney burn.
You got him, girl. Auburn goes to the nightclub with her and her friends. However, Owen saw from his window. And so he decides like, okay, I know what to do. I'm going to follow her to the club and I'm going to like beg her to forgive me. At the end of the scene, there is an empowering line of dialogue where Auburn says she is not gonna sleep with the man, which cements her voice as a woman and her choice to say no.
How about I take you home?
Well, I told you I'm not sleeping with you. Ow!
In the next scene, Auburn wakes up naked in the man's apartment, covered in paint, repeating no, no, no over and over again.
Oh no. Oh no. No, no, no,
I just need to know, what is Colleen Hoover's fascination with like a woman saying no 100 times and then giving in to the frickin' advances? Auburn goes up to the artist man and she's like, uh-oh, I don't remember anything that happened at all last night. Like, what happened between us?
Freaking out. What happened last night? I don't remember. Did we...
Owen begins to describe what happened the night before, and it don't make no friggin' sense. He's like, yeah, so we got back to the apartment after last night, and we were like so in love with each other, so we were like painting.
We painted.
And while we were painting, like you got a little bit too excited and you spilled paint all over your clothes.
Well, you got paint everywhere.
You like stripped yourself.
But you undressed yourself.
And then you were so drunk that you like were gonna fall asleep. And then I slept on the couch.
I slept on the sofa.
Nothing happened. And I'm like, that sounds freaking fake, right? Okay, Colleen Hoover with the fake out assault scene. The episode ends with Auburn getting reunited with her son and they are playing outside. And in the final seconds of the episode, the camera like pans over and the artist is like creepily watching them from across the street for no reason at all. And that's the end of the episode. So this is where stuff starts to get crazy. The brother of the dead baby daddy, like out of nowhere, is like, yeah, haha, I think that we should get married.
Marry me.
He starts to like explain why he thinks they should get married, and the reason he says is because his mom is having custody of the baby and he lives with his mom even though he has like a full-time job as a cop. He feels like he's already raising the baby and he already feels like the baby's dad. The baby's like 8. If you want custody of your baby, why don't we get married, because I already feel like I'm his father. And instead of being like, that's kind of weird, she's like, maybe you should do that. And so she goes back to her apartment, and conveniently, right when she gets there, she checks the mail and she sees like a bill in the mail. And she sees that like the bill is so high. And so she's feeling trapped. She's like, ugh, if I'm ever gonna get custody, I'm gonna have to like marry this man. I'm like, why don't you just open like an Etsy shop or something? So in Auburn's Great Depression, she decides the only way that she can solve all of these issues is to go sleep with the artist. Yeah, that's right. She literally drives over to his place and is like, let's bang, and then they bang. There's this moment where they're like on a bridge together. Right when it looks like they're about to kiss, she like moves her head away and he like sticks his nose into like her hair. After their romantic day together, they go back to Auburn's place, and once they get there, guess who decided to show up? The stalker brother.
Why the hell are you here?
He says to her like, get this, since I'm a cop, about couple weeks ago maybe, I arrested this man because he had drugs and he was gonna sell drugs, and that's just not okay. The dialogue was just so impassioned. I'm like, girl, look on the positive. Maybe he can use the drug money to get you custody. The crazy brother like stares longingly at an engagement ring, and then the episode is over. With every passing episode, my will to live just gets lower and lower. Okay, anyway. The show explains to us that the reason why Owen was arrested was because he was out with his father and they get pulled over for literally, I don't think any reason, because like we see them driving and there's like no reason for them to get arrested. But anyway, they get pulled over by the crazy brother. When they like take them out of the car, they're like, wait, there's like pills. Like, whose pills are these? Owen's father is a public figure. And like, if he had pills, that would be bad. And so Owen, even though he resents his father, he's like, they're my pills.
They're mine. Pills are mine. You didn't know that they were there.
Place your hands behind your back.
And so then he like gets in trouble for that. I'm like, get you a book boyfriend who's taken the fall for his father's pill addiction. And we find out that the reason why he stood her up that one night when they were going on that date was because he was in jail. The next day, Auburn is at work, and without her permission, the artist has followed her to her place of work.
Auburn.
And he immediately starts like explaining to her and being like, those pills weren't mine.
Look, I know it's gonna sound crazy, but I took the fall for someone else.
She's not having it. She's like, I can't do this. Like, I don't want anything to do with this. Like, the drugs, like, it's all too much. So then Owen is like, okay, so that didn't work. So now I'm just going to trauma dump so she feels bad for me.
My mom and younger brother, Carrie, died in a car crash. I was driving. Dad was in a coma for weeks. I never left the hospital. I was terrified that if I left, he'd die. And if he died, then I'd have nothing.
And after his literal manipulation, she like understands and she's like, maybe he's right. And maybe we need to like find a way to take down the brother. In this episode, the brother character starts going like absolutely crazy for no freaking reason. He was crazy beforehand just because he was super protective for no reason. But here he just starts saying the most out of pocket stuff of all time.
We see each other most nights now. Why don't we just move in together?
Move in with me. I'm going to be your husband. Why wait?
I love hearing you say when we get married.
I can't, I have work.
I told you you don't need to work. When are you gonna quit? It's for us, Auburn. I put in an offer.
When I looked him up, I found out that he's actually the most hated character in all of Colleen Hoover's lore. If you're wondering like what he did worse than any of the other men, I don't really know. That's the end of episode 5. So at the beginning of episode 6, Auburn goes to the artist's studio for no reason and she decides to drop a confession. The confession that she writes is like, LOL, like you're so sexy. Like I hate my like fiance, he's boring. And so instead of texting her like a normal person, he decides to show up to her literal place of living. Auburn explains that like she doesn't love the evil brother, but she does want to be with him because when she's with him, he allows her to be a good mother.
I have to grow up and be a good mother. Trey makes that possible.
No.
And then the artist like backtracks and he's like, that is not true because like 6 weeks ago when I watched you outside of your house without your permission, you looked like a good mother because like you and your son were like laughing together.
Saw the way you smiled at him. You smiled at him the same way that my mother used to smile at me. And he smiled at you like I smiled at her. And I loved him more than anything in this world.
Follow your voice down the hallway.
She just proceeds to break down in his arms and she realizes just how trapped she feels. Owen says, I know what we can do, which is bang. Yeah, that's right. This girl's got literal tears in her eyes when they start banging. Like, isn't that crazy? Owen meets Auburn's son. They go out to dinner and they have a lot of very meaningful conversations, none of which we are privy to hearing because it's all shown through a montage. This is where things started to go a little bit weird for me because in my mind, everything made sense. I was like, here's how the rest of the story is going to play out. They're going to be together. She's going to like dump the crazy brother. He's going to host some art event to raise money for her to get custody. They're going to get custody and everything's going to be solved. But instead, the plot just takes a sharp left turn and we just have to freaking deal with it. So after they spend the day together, Auburn goes back to her apartment by herself, which is when the crazy cop brother arrives. Auburn's phone like rings or whatever, like it just like it gets like a text alert.
Oh, listen to that. Your phone came to life all by itself.
And he's like, what is that? And she's like, oh, just like a text. And so then they start talking more and then it happens again. He's very upset. He's like, I don't know how your phone's going off, but someone's trying to talk to you. She like tries to explain to him like, oh, if you get a freaking text, like it rings. And in a moment of like fury and rage, he decides that he is going to hit her in the face.
Didn't you? What?
I'm like, nobody taught this man about a freaking text alert. I'm like, calm down. Like, everyone take a deep breath. If I know anything about Colleen Hoover, it's that she's gonna write about these empowered women and then she's gonna have those women be slapped. The episode ends with the crazy brother forcing himself onto Auburn And then he leaves, and that's the end of the episode. Okay, Auburn is traumatized after her getting like hit and threatened by the crazy brother. And so she's like, I don't know what to do. The only thing I can think to do is to go hook up with the artist man. Despite having visible bruises on her face and body, right after they bang, the crazy brother is back because like apparently he had more to say that he left and he was like, oh wait, I forgot, like I have something else I need to say. He's like, what are you doing here? And he starts like beating up the artist man. And they're like, boom. And so then they fight. It's really exciting. I cared a lot about it. The fight is done. They're like, let's call the police. And then the crazy brother is like, I don't know if you guys forgot this, but I am the police. And so then he like goes on the radio and he's like, hey, other police, guess what just happened? You'll never believe it. That drug dealer from the other day, he just attacked me for no reason. You better come get him. You're thinking that what's gonna happen is that Auburn and Owen are going to like band together and they're going to say like, he's evil, like please take him to jail and like get him out of here, like he's just no good. But instead they decide to like go along with his lie.
We will fight this. We will fight this.
No. We don't fight that. We lose.
And then Owen's like, yeah, like I'm a crazy drug dealer. I guess you should arrest me. And you're like, why? So then everything seemingly goes to normal. There's a couple of weird scenes where Trey is like threatening Auburn or like referencing the fact that like he lied about that artist to get him in jail. And so then immediately you're like, oh, that's gonna like play into something at the end. They go to like the final meeting where they are going to officially sign custody over to Auburn and the crazy brother. During this meeting, Auburn is like, oh, by the way, I've been secretly audio recording everything for the past like couple weeks. And she just starts playing all of these like voice notes of the crazy brother like threatening her and admitting that he lied and that he's like evil.
And that's when he grabbed you. Tried to force himself on you.
You're the one who attacked me. You're the one who was violent.
Maybe you should take notes. Because you do not want to get this wrong.
And like I swear in one of the recordings he's like, and I'm evil. During one point, the mother of the dead baby daddy who has the custody, she's like, everything in this is just so messy. We need to do the right thing for Adam.
I have to be certain that this is what's best for Adam.
And everyone in the room like gasps and they're like, oh my gosh, she didn't say the name of the baby. She said the name of her dead son, and we have to pretend that we cared. And they're like, we are gonna leak these stories to the press if you don't sign sole custody over to Auburn and release that artist from jail and pretend nothing happened. And then they're like, okay. And then they do, and then it's literally over. If you're wondering what types of repercussions the evil brother character gets, pretty much nothing. We don't see him lose his job. We don't see him lose his reputation. For the most part, it seems like he just gets to live his life. It doesn't really create for a satisfying ending, but I don't know what I expected. I guess I expected something that was like good and made sense. From this point on, I thought the show was going to end in a very boring and predictable way. I thought that Auburn and Owen were going to end up together and they were going to help raise her son, but instead, the show had probably the most confusing ending that I have ever freaking seen. So we see Owen and Auburn laying in bed together, and while they're laying there, they like remark on like a piece of art hanging on the wall. It's like this ugly Getty image of a hand, but anyway, after we see this, we cut to 10 years ago in the hospital that we started the entire show with, except now it's in Owen's POV and he's like in the room right next to her. His dad is dying of like pill addiction or something. While he's in there, he sees Auburn like run out and like sobbing, and she like falls on the ground and she looks really stupid. He goes over to the dying baby daddy's room and he's like, hey, do you want this piece of art? Then the dying baby daddy, whose name is Adam, he says like, can I ask you something?
Can I ask you a favor?
And I was like, what is he gonna ask? Like, I was like really invested. I'm like, there's 2 minutes left in this show. Like, what could possibly, like, what's this revelation gonna be? And then he asks the question, and it's completely freaking inaudible.
Can you mail this to my girlfriend?
I have watched this one clip, this one little line of dialogue, no joke, probably 50 freaking times.
Can you mail this to my girlfriend?
I slowed it down, hoping that it would make some sense what he was saying.
Can you mail this to my girlfriend?
He says, "Can you mail this to my girlfriend?" I'm like, what are you, like, speak up. Like, was there not a better take that they could have worked with? Based on the acting of the show, probably not. I thought he was maybe saying, "Can you stay close to my girlfriend?"
Can you mail this to my girlfriend?
As in, like, make sure she's okay without me. Can you propose to my girlfriend? But why would he say that?
Can you mail this to my girlfriend?
Then I thought that maybe it had something to do with the picture itself. Was he saying, like, can I give this to my girlfriend? Can I, make this out to her?
Can you mail this to my girlfriend?
I don't know what is being said, but based on the implication of this entire setup, I'm going to assume that this dying man is telling this man to frickin' stalk her. And then the show is over, and we see Auburn kissing Owen in bed, and that's it. We never see the son. We just have to assume that he's enjoying his life. So that was Confess. I have to confess that show is freaking dog shit. Overall, I would say that this show was freaking awful. I'd say the acting was incredibly choppy, incredibly wooden, and honestly at some points very hard to watch. The sets were very flat, and there was clearly no budget for the show. As for some of the problematic content, I do think it's weird that Colleen Hoover insists on all of her female characters being beaten by a man, but maybe that's just me. There were also a few instances where it was made a joke that she was maybe assaulted, which made me feel a little bit uncomfortable, but besides that, the show was pretty fine. There's also the implication that he maybe had stalked her the entire story, but that might just be my headcanon. So overall, Colleen Hoover has yet again delivered a piece of media which was absolutely hard to watch, made light of multiple abusive situations, and made me feel incredibly uncomfortable to review. See you next time, bye! This very well might be the ending of my Colleen Hoover saga. I do know that next year Colleen Hoover has her It Ends With Us movie coming out, so I think that I'm gonna go to that. That could be fun. Maybe I'll go opening night, dress up like one of the characters, draw a black eye or something.